Rachel White is a cocktail waitress at a truck stop strip club in an interstate cowtown in Central California. As her life spirals out of control, poverty and paranoia force her to make a string of increasingly desperate decisions. Decisions that will lead her to the Hell Patrol, a paramilitary organization of hot rod driving mercenaries that hunt demons for fame and fortune. This is Hell Patrol Origins. Chapter 8. Here it comes. Rachel wasn't sure if it was because of Henry, Dr. Atwood, or having a clean gun under her pillow, but she slept well that night and woke up refreshed and alive, and almost forgot she spent the night in a jail cell. She got up and wandered over to the end of the cell block where the makeshift kitchenette was set up, found a couple microwaves, an instant coffee machine, and a cupboard full of K-cups. She plugged one into the machine and made herself coffee. Alex was behind her when she turned around. "Hey, glad to see you didn't disappear," Rachel said. "Yeah, I guess I'm not a hooker anymore. I heard you shot someone." Rachel put another K-cup in the machine for her. I tripped over my own words. Alright, got the first mistake out of the way. Only 4 sentences in. Sorry. Rachel put another K-cup in the machine for her. "Just my stalker, so you know, happy endings. It was a hot gun, though, so I wound up here." "Did you kill him?" Alex asked. "I don't know. I'm pretty sure I shot him in the gut, no. So, if he's not dead, he's at least suffering." "Good breakfast topic. At least you got to shoot some weird dude in the gut. I probably won't get to shoot a pimp. Henry said he might shoot one for me, though." "What?" Rachel asked. "He said when working girls join up, someone from Hell Patrol goes out to intimidate the pimps, so they don't get stupid and try to get their girls back. I think Brady said the same thing, except, in a more clever, more vague way. But that's what they do. Some guy goes out and pulls a gun on the pimp and tells them not to come looking for trouble," Alex explained. "That can't be legal," Rachel said. "They got rid of your stolen gun, right? They don't care. We're tieflings. They do it the fast way and brush it under the rug. Apparently the cops know and they're in on it. As long as straight people from the straight life don't get hit, they don't give a fuck about Hell Patrol taking out the trash." "Well, the new beginnings, and making everyone who hurt us suffer." Rachel held up her styrofoam coffee cup and clinked it against Alex's. "I can't remember the last time I actually drank coffee in the morning like a normal person. I'm usually up all night and asleep all day." Brady walked into the cell block, his own mug in his hand, a smile plastered on his face, his uniform crisp and unwrinkled. "I see you ladies found the coffee machine. How did you sleep?" "Best night in a jail I've ever had," Alex said. "Do you ever sleep?" Rachel asked. "Sometimes I use our dormitory facilities if I'm up all night tying up loose ends. It's a real shame that 38 Special slipped and fell and landed in our motor pool's forge. I told you we had a forge, right? Sometimes we melt down scrap metal to make pieces of armor or weapons for the cars. Sometimes contraband brought in by candidates accidentally winds up in it," Brady said. "Wait, do you always talk in circles like that?" Rachel asked. "Only when describing events that may or may not be morally upstanding," Brady said. "Anyways, ladies, there's going to be a briefing at 10:00. That's about 2 hours from now. There will be a few other candidates there as well, and our dear friend Henry will bless us with his presence. Then there will be helmet measuring, driving tests, and finally at the end of the day, vehicle assignments. You said something earlier about Crown Vics. We source our cars from a variety of police auctions, government agencies, or just scavenging wherever we can find them in the old war zones. The government has a tendency to use us as a dumping ground for old, unwanted vehicles. We clean up the ones we can, salvage the ones we can't, and do what we have to do to get our people their rides. Most of our recruits wind up in retired cop Crown Vics. They're robust cars that can stand up well to the abuse of an amateur driver. It's a good first car for someone who might not be that great behind the wheel, especially with the police upgrades. You make it sound like things might be different for someone who can drive, Rachel said. Are you saying you can drive? Brady asked. I might be. Then you might get something special in recognition of your skill, Brady said. Show us what you're made of on the test track. When 10 o'clock rolled around, Rachel and Alex found themselves sitting in a briefing room in the last row of 3 rows of folding chairs. Brady was wheeling an old TV and VCR stand, the kind that Rachel hadn't seen since high school. She wasn't sure if the war with the demons had eliminated DVD technology, or if Hell Patrol was just that far behind the curve. When Brady finished pushing the machine into place, he plugged it in and turned it on, and set a tape to start at the desired point when he hit the play button, then turned it off again and looked pleased with himself. There should be a good turnout today, and Henry will be here. You guys will appreciate that. It's always nice to have a veteran on onboarding day, Brady said. I should also mention that such appearances are compensated. So one day, it could be you in Henry's position, getting a little extra bump to come in and give the recruits a pep talk. How much of a bump? Alex asked. Couple $100. Not much, really. Especially not for a Hell Patrol vet. But it's a good way to meet the people and find partners. Once you've locked in and blooded, you'll have your own operating authority to do as you please. A lot of Hell Patrollers like to run in packs or with partners. They use the buddy system. It's your call, Brady explained. I'll get into that later. Tieflings started to filter into the Hell Patrol building, and from there into the briefing room, taking seats around Rachel and Alex. Rachel noticed one of the local gang tieflings, a tiefling that she was sure was a hobo, another streetwalker that Alex probably knew, and even one that had come straight from work, still wearing the coveralls of a custodian with a wet rag in his back pocket. A wet rag, not a ret wag. Rachel remembered what Henry said about getting tieflings when they were at their lowest. Nobody in the room had a job worth a shit. Half of them didn't even have that. Rachel realized how absolutely typical her story was. She had committed a crime, was running from a dark fate. So was everyone in the room. Hookers that didn't want to fall down the trafficking hole and disappear. Out-of-luck hobos and gangsters that knew they'd be dead in a gutter eventually, one way or another. Tieflings with straight jobs that had no career potential and didn't pay much. A pack of misfits and losers, all desperate loners on the fringe of society with nothing left to lose. If they had anything to lose to start with. Brady had a clipboard with a roster on it. He was marking off names. When he looked up after scratching a line near the last one with a pen, his big, fake, permanent smile was plastered on his face like a bumper sticker. Welcome to Hell Patrol Day 1, Brady said. Today we're going to start by watching a video about the history of Hell Patrol, what we do, and how we help individuals like yourself start better lives. I don't know how to drive. A hooker in the front row, still wearing fishnets and heels, raised her hand. That's not important today. We will put you in a car on a closed track and teach you. You will not fire any guns or drive on the street today. Actually, that segues right into our first topic, Brady said. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to watch this introductory video. Afterwards, we'll assign you some gear, take some measurements for your helmet and uniform jackets, and test your driving skills. Don't worry about not knowing how. You'll be taught if necessary. We do our driving test to determine vehicle assignments. Not knowing how to drive or shoot is not a deal breaker in Hell Patrol if you come in just willing to learn. What kind of vehicles will be assigned? Rachel asked. She knew that Brady had already explained that to her, but she asked in the presence of the other recruits, hoping maybe the answer might be different. A good question, if it is jumping the gun a little. I'm sure you're all eager to get your wheels. We come into a variety of vehicles through the charity of other government agencies and salvage operations. Those that come in with driving skills get assigned vehicles they can handle. Those that come in a little rough around the edges get assigned vehicles that can take a beating. Don't worry about which camp you're in. 90% of recruits are the latter, Brady said. The door opened and Brady looked up. Rachel looked behind her, saw the happy, smiling face of Henry under his aviator sunglasses and pompadour. This is Henry. He's a veteran Hell Patroller. He's agreed to come in today and help you guys out. We never send you out there blind. You'll always have a real veteran to show you the ropes if we can get one. Henry came up to the front of the room.
Hey, good morning, everybody. First thing I want to say to you all is that it's normal to be scared shitless. Strapping into a car and fighting demons and zombies, it's probably the second dumbest thing I've ever done in my life.
What was the first? Someone in the front row asked.
The good question. The dumbest thing I ever did was not joining Hell Patrol sooner. Man, I love my job. Oh, is it dangerous? Yeah, it's pretty fucked up sometimes. But, I get to kill stuff, paid a shit ton of money, I own cars and a house, I don't worry about getting beat up by the cops or where my next rent check or where my next meal is coming from. It's peace of mind, baby. Total peace of mind. That's what it's all about.
Henry and I will be here to answer questions and explain as we go through the day. For now, let's watch the video, Brady said. He gestured to Rachel, who was sitting closest to the door, and she leaned back and flicked the lights off. The television lit up. Brady pressed the play button. The VCR clicked and sputtered, and made lines on the TV screen in the way that shitty old VHS tapes did. Lore dump, lore dump, lore dump, this is the Demon War lore dump. Sorry, that's not actually in the text, but you gotta know so that you can know. In the year 1999, the gates of hell were thrown open and hordes of demons invaded the earth. What followed was a 7-year-long war for survival that pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. Dissent among the demons grew when it became obvious to the lords of hell that Asmodeus, general of the demon hordes, would take most of Earth's souls for himself, leaving only crumbs for the rest of hell. In the final hours of the siege of Los Angeles, Mephistopheles struck. He had made a secret deal with the Vatican to allow himself and his forces to enter purgatory if he stopped Asmodeus and called a truce. Mephistopheles betrayed Asmodeus, slaughtered his officers, and broke the back of Hell's legions, ending the war and hurling Asmodeus back into hell. Now, in the present, scattered pockets of demonic resistance still threaten the broken civilization of humanity, and the tieflings, children of the unholy union of demonic and human parents, wander the earth. Marginalized and oppressed third-class citizens, streetwalkers, gangsters, and crippled by poverty, many tieflings turn to the only career option available to them, bounty hunting for demons in weaponized vehicles of war as part of the Hell Patrol. The perspective shifted to a tiefling in a Hell Patrol jacket, sitting in a room, talking to a camera. Why did I join Hell Patrol? Well, honestly, I was bored. I've been cleaning toilets ever since I was old enough to hold a scrub brush. Best job I ever had was high school janitor. Could I die in Hell Patrol? Oh yeah, of course I could die tomorrow. What do you think is scarier? Dying doing something exciting, or spending the next 10 years of your life scrubbing toilets and cleaning up puke with sawdust? It shifted again to another tiefling, this time a beautiful woman.
Why did I join Hell Patrol? Because I used to be a stripper. It was pretty good most of the time, yeah, I had money. But there wasn't a single day on the job when some creep didn't try to put his finger inside of me. One afternoon, me and some of the girls were down at the free clinic getting tested. Half of them came up with the clap. Turns out, one of the scumbag managers at the club was taking free rides on the girls with his dirty dick. They fired all the infected girls, but he kept his job because he was human. I knew if I stuck around the stripper scene, I'd probably eventually get abused or sick too. They don't hire tiefling girls in the nice clean clubs. We scraped the scum off the bottom of the barrel. I didn't make as much money at first, but when I got sponsored, that changed. What's the price of not having to shake your tail for creeps? Hitting demons with a car. Good trade.
A tiefling with a gang tattoo on his face. Why did I join Hell Patrol? Because I'm a fuck-up, and if I wasn't in Hell Patrol, shit, I'd be in prison. I've got a brother and 2 cousins in the state pen for gang banging and drug dealing. When my brother went in for his second time on pushing crack, I knew that being a gang tiefling only had 2 endings, in the dirt or behind bars. At least now when I shoot people and drive like a maniac, it's legal and I get paid for it. A grizzled, haunted-looking tiefling. Why did I join Hell Patrol? Because I hate humans more than I hate demons. But if I go out shooting demons, at least I'm surrounded by demons instead of humans. My whole family was lynched in the 2006 Murfreesboro race riots. A bunch of hillbilly humans broke into our house and strung up everyone because they were born with horns. The only reason I'm alive is because they ran out of rope. The stupid racist motherfuckers couldn't even measure out enough cord to make enough nooses. At least when I'm shooting down demons, they've got an honest reason to hate me. Humans just don't like you unless you're doing their dirty work. Fuck 'em. I'd rather be in Hell Patrol than give Johnny Smoothskin a dime of honest work. Henry reached out and hit the power button on the TV, plunging the room into darkness. He motioned for Rachel to turn the lights back on.
Hey, gotta love that last guy. He really sells it.
Henry smiled.
Anyway, that's enough of that shit. I think it's pretty obvious that we're all at least one of those guys in the testimonials. In a minute, we'll go get you measured for gear and check out some cars. Let's do a quick Q&A. Who's got a question for old Henry?
How do we get paid? The gang tiefling near the front spoke up.
Good. Somebody asked the most important question. Thank you, my man. So, it works like this. We are paid on a bounty system. Hell Patrol has a database of demons and undead. They've all got a specific price. There's a bunch of pinhole cameras installed on the car. Usually one in the front somewhere under the bumper or in the grill, and one riding piggyback on every gun you install on the car. When you come back from a mission, the government bean counters behind the desk download your gun cameras, and they credit you for every monster you kill. You'll get a check in 7 business days, Henry said. With that being said, keep in mind that shit you kill outside the line of sight of a gun camera might not get counted. So unless it's a threat to your life or vehicle, try to make sure you get that fucker some screen time.
The recruiter said we're allowed to team up with each other or fly solo. How does that work? Someone asked.
Alright, another good question. For your first assignment, you will be put on a hand-holding mission. You'll go into the ruins of LA and fight zombies. We call that mowing the lawn. You'll see why. Zombies are cheap kills, but they're easy to kill, fun to kill, and even though you don't make much money per kill, bullets and gas are cheap. You'll still come out ahead. It's a good look for rookies learning the ropes. Now, after your first lawnmower mission, you have total authority over how you run your business. call your buddies, go out alone. It's all on you. They'll tell you where to find demons. It's up to you to go get them. Now there's one more thing to say about this. A lot of times we work with partners simply for the sake of getting paid. Like I said earlier, you're only gonna get paid for confirmed kills. We like to go out with a wingman or two to make sure the action is caught on multiple cameras, so nobody misses a paycheck. We'll show you how to drive in a formation, so you have overlapping fields of fire, and make sure nobody misses a kill on film.
Any more questions? Brady asked.
What if you're homeless?
The hobo asked. You stay here until you get on your feet. That goes for anyone from the wrong side of the tracks that may have a bad past following them as well. Those of you with straight jobs, we will inform your previous employer of your new career choice, manage any severance pay you might be owed, and we will also be fronting you a month of rent. You'll have plenty of time to straighten out and make the real money that will change your life, Brady explained. There was a knock at the door behind Rachel. She looked up. Brady motioned for the new visitors to enter. A tall, slim man in a beat-up Mopar trucker cap with a plug of dip wedged firmly in one cheek entered the room, and behind him, a petite Asian woman, her long dark hair pulled back into a ponytail. Both of them wore grease-stained dark blue coveralls with embroidered name patches. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce your new best friends. This is Fuang Bic and Jim Jack Cooter. They are the company mechanics that will be assigning your first vehicles and doing any official Hell Patrol work on your cars, Brady said. Name's Cooter. I do domestics, the redneck said.
You can call me Jade. That's what Bic means in Vietnamese. I work on the imports. It's a pleasure to meet you, the Vietnamese woman added.
Now, if y'all are tired of sitting here watching bullshit and want to get into a damn car, y'all follow us outside, Cooter said. This is the best part, Henry smiled.
Everyone got up and followed Cooter and Jade out of the room. They went further down the main hall, past the cell blocks, to an outside security door. Cooter pushed it open and bathed the hallway in the light of the sun that Rachel hadn't even seen yet that day. As they stepped out into the day, Rachel could see that the jail's exercise yard had been turned into a road course with orange cones, and on the other side of the yard, a warehouse building that was probably once used for maintenance had been converted into a garage, with multiple vehicles in various states of repair parked inside or out front. Directly in front of them was a line of black and white second-generation Ford Crown Victoria police cars. The decals and light bars removed, the cop cars naked black except for their white roofs and doors.
Now we're going to have ourselves some real fun, Cooter said. Mr. Brady going to go around taking your head measurements for helmets and passing out jackets and all that nonsense while you wait. One at a time, y'all are going to get a chance to do 3 laps around this here little track. Don't do nothing crazy now, just prove to us you can drive. If you can't drive, we'll teach you.
I'm nervous. I've never driven a car before, Alex said. There's nothing to be afraid of. You won't be going fast. Also, we do our driving test in an old Honda Civic with a racing roll cage, 4-point racing seats, racing brakes and suspension, and reinforced bumpers. It's like driving a roll of bubble wrap. You'd have to fuck up pretty bad to hurt yourself for the car, Jade said.
I want to go first, Rachel stepped forward.
I like you already,
Cooter smiled, swished his wad of tobacco to his other cheek, and spat. She has to go last, Brady said.
What? Rachel asked. That's bullshit. I can actually drive. Let me show you how it's done.
That's precisely why you're going last. I don't want you intimidating the other recruits, or even worse, giving them any bad ideas. I remember how you used to tear around town in that little Volkswagen. I've had my eye on you for years.
I'll sort this out, Henry said. Who here is absolutely fucking terrified of driving? Be honest. Alex raised a hand meekly. You're going first. I'll get in the car with you. Don't worry, the sooner it's over, the better you'll feel, Henry said.
Jade threw Henry the keys to the Civic. He caught them in one hand, grabbed Alex by the wrist with the other.
Come on, he said. If you can make that shitbox actually go fast enough to kill us, I'll be impressed.
Henry bundled Alex into the test car, strapped her into the racing seat, and got in on the passenger side. Rachel watched from the sidelines with the other tieflings as Brady went one by one down the line with a measuring tape and a small stool. He had each tiefling sit on the stool, measured their heads and horns with the tape, wrote down some figures on a clipboard, and then moved on to the next one. He put the stool down in front of Rachel and gestured for her to sit. She did. I heard those helmets aren't that great once you chop them up to fit us, she said. It's true they're not optimal, but one is better than zero, Brady shrugged. He took her measurements. Interesting. Never seen horns like yours. Guess you're special in more ways than one. Already got your jacket too, and Henry told me he gave you a piece. He did, Rachel admitted, opening the jacket to reveal the Glock stuffed into one of the pockets. First chance you get, go to a gun shop and get fitted for a custom holster. You might have noticed already, but a gun that you can't get to quickly isn't terribly useful. Rachel knew he was inferring something about her self-defense. She looked up and saw the Civic going around the track with Henry and Alex in it, and saw that on the third lap, Alex was actually driving the car without sweating or the fear of God in her eyes. Brady noticed as well. You see why I'm making you take the trial last? Imagine what people like her would think if I let you go first and just ran that track over. They'd be scared shitless. I know you were a little hellion in that shitbox Beetle you had. As a ghetto bird flew over. Rachel realized that he was right. Maybe there was a sympathetic chord somewhere in Brady, or maybe he was just good enough at his job to know when to fake it. In her heart, Rachel knew that if she got behind the wheel of that Civic first and started hooning around that test track, the rest of the recruits would run for the hills. When the Civic pulled up and Alex and Henry got out, they were both smiling.
See, we're both still alive. It ain't that hard. Who's the next victim? Henry asked.
The rest of the tieflings looked expectantly at Rachel, but she shrugged, waited. She knew the rest of the staff wanted her to go last, and she didn't want to scare anyone. It was better to let them all go first and struggle through the driving lesson than put her in the car before them and shatter their confidence. The sun climbed higher in the sky. It got hot. Rachel got tired of waiting. She sat and patiently watched as the other recruits took their turns, taking their driving lessons around the track. She noticed that Jade and Cooter were taking notes, writing something down on a clipboard, nodding and mumbling to each other. It was like they could already visualize the dents they'd be pounding out of the cars that would be assigned to the rookies. Finally, at high noon, with the sun beating on Rachel's white skin and black leather Hell Patrol jacket, it was finally her turn.
Need a co-driver?
Henry asked as he handed her the keys. Nope, Rachel said.
Can I come along anyway? I don't want to miss this, Henry smiled.
If you're hitting on me, you'd have a better chance if you let me drive that Australian muscle car of yours, Rachel said. Henry laughed.
Nice try, girl, but you'd have to do more than give me a night on a town to drive my baby. Now get in this thing and let's see if you can scare Brady.
Rachel eyed up the Civic. It was old, an 80s model. She could tell by the angular lines of the body style. There were rivet holes in the fenders and side skirts where a body kit used to be mounted but was torn off. As Rachel got into the car, she noticed that the interior was completely ripped out. There was nothing but roll cage and a rebuilt console and transmission tunnel inside the Civic. She realized that even though it was a 40-year-old piece of shit four-banger, it could probably haul ass. Maybe not a flat-standing quarter-mile haul ass, but just like her old Volkswagen, it was light enough to really move with the little power it did have. It was a shame it was an automatic. Henry was already strapped in and waiting when she sat down and belted in. Can I do a burnout?
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission, Henry said.
Rachel put her foot on the floor to hear what the little old lawnmower had to say. She smoked the tires and almost laughed. Whatever was in the front of the car, it didn't sound much different than the go-kart she used to race. She let it go, and the Civic took off into the first straight like a shot. Rachel took the first turn by braking into it just to be safe. It was an easy left. Most of the turns on the track weren't designed to be especially challenging. She hammered the gas out of the turn and burned the straight. When she got into the next turn, she was already confident in how the car handled, and knew that it was a featherlight shitbox that she could bully around the track. She took the turn without the brakes, rode the steering wheel the whole way through. On lap 2, she got fast. Coming out of the first straight, she put the car sideways in turn 1 and got the Civic into full lock. She ran the Civic through the straight again and then got sideways again in the second turn. As she passed the tieflings, Brady and the mechanic standing on the sideline, she noticed that the look of awe and terror upon their faces was most obvious on Brady, and that made her smile. On the final lap, instead of crossing the finish line, she yanked the wheel into the infield and did a couple donuts. When the smoke cleared, she turned off the car. Henry had an idiotic smile on his face from horn to horn. Cooter had a gooey black stain on his bottom lip, where his plug of chew fell out of his open mouth and onto the concrete. Jade looked flabbergasted. Brady was about to have a heart attack.
What the fuck did my eyes just see? Where the hell did they find a damn tiefling girl that could actually drive?
Cooter hollered. You could have killed yourself in that thing, Jade was yelling.
Hell yeah! Only thing she killed was the track record. She got that sumbitch all the way sideways on turn 1. Woo!
Cooter replied. No tiefling has ever done that on a driving test, Brady said. So I won, right? Rachel asked. It's an assessment, not a competition, Brady said, stern-faced.
Well, let's not fuck around. Who's getting what?
Henry asked. All right, line up. These are the vehicle assignments, Jade said. She moved in front of the line of Crown Vics arrayed next to the track and stood in front of each one and read off a name. The first Crown Vic went to the hobo. The second went to the gangster. Then a prostitute. One by one, Jade read the names, and each recruit was given the keys to a car. Finally, Jade got to Alex, and she was assigned a Crown Vic as well. Rachel stood expectantly, waiting for Jade to read her name. Rachel White, Jade said. We don't have your car out here right now. What? Rachel asked. I killed that track. Why don't I get a car? You do get a car, just not one of these, Jade said. You aren't going to...
Oh, hell no! Don't you touch that damn...
Oh, yes. Henry's smile went into orbit. Rachel didn't know what was happening. She felt like everyone knew something she didn't. It wasn't fair. She was the only recruit that actually knew how to drive. Maybe showboating on the track was a bad idea. Maybe she would get run out of Hell Patrol on assessment day without even getting a car. What would she tell her coworkers at the club? What would she do? What about the stalker? What if he wasn't dead and was still looking for her? It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to Rachel at all. She was the most qualified candidate. She deserved one of those Crown Vics. Sadness filled her up, percolated, boiled, turned to rage. She felt the bumps on her back twitch, and a vein in her head, behind her horn, began to thump. She knew it was right under that spooky tattoo that Johnny had found on her. It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair at all. She was tired of everything in her life fucking her around. We have to. We use it or we have to part it out or put it in the crusher. Those are the rules. It might as well be her, Jade said.
I wanted that damn car,
Cooter said. It's government property until it's assigned to a Hell Patroller. You can't have it and you know it. We either crush it or we give it to her, Jade said. She's right. You're going to have to live with it, Cooter, Brady nodded.
It's a piece of history,
Cooter moaned. And it's safest with her. She can actually drive.
All right.
Cooter sighed, defeated and deflated. Disappointment spelled out in inky black tobacco stains on his coveralls. But I hate it. Maybe she'll sell it to you. It's hers once we assign it, Jade shrugged.
Yeah, maybe after she breaks it.
What the fuck are you all talking about? Where are my wheels? What am I driving? Rachel asked. Rachel White. Jade read off the sheet. 1969. Dodge Polara CHP Interceptor. The what? Rachel asked. The finest sumbitchin' police car ever made, Cooter grumbled.
Chapter 8 recap, Jim Jack Cooter, baby! Woo!
Oh my god. Yeah, it's the Chapter 8 recap. Cooter is probably my favorite fucking character in the whole book. This guy's a fucking animal. This fucking dipshit redneck mechanic. Alright. So, what happened in this chapter? Well, we see the Hell Patrol onboarding process, which is like basically like it's pretty bare bones, as you may have noticed. It's like the fucking sex ed class in high school. So that's how it happens, baby. That's what Hell Patrol is. We finally learned the history of Hell Patrol and the Demon War of '99. So we now know that the Demon War started in 1999. Specifically, I don't think I ever mentioned in this book, but it literally starts January 1st, 1999. That's the date that the Hell Gates open, and Hell just comes to Earth and starts kicking the shit out of us. So the war lasts for 7 years. It ended in 2006, and it ends at the Battle of Los Angeles, where Mephistopheles betrays Asmodeus in order to get into purgatory, to escape hell and escape the pissed off army of demons that he's just betrayed. Because, of course, if a demon dies on Earth, it just goes back to hell. So there's no way Mephistopheles is going to want to go back to hell where everybody he just betrayed is going to be waiting to kick his ass. So that's how that works. So it's not actually in the story, but there is like a big thing. I actually did write the lore for how the Battle of Los Angeles actually happened. So I'll tell you guys just now for the sake of brevity. So basically Los Angeles was one of the last holdouts of humanity during the Demon War, and Asmodeus's legions were all arrayed. They were all sorted out on the tarmac of LAX. The demons were using LAX as a mustering field to organize their forces before committing them to go into the ruins and wipe out the human resistance. And what happens is, at the moment of Mephistopheles' betrayal, he turns all his demonic artillery onto Asmodeus' legions and just starts shelling them and wipes them out. Although now that I think about it, I do think we say something about that later in the story when Rachel and Henry actually go hell patrolling in El Segundo. So I don't mention that, but I do mention that. Oh, by the way, spoilers. Don't worry, that didn't really actually spoil anything. Alright, so that happened. We meet Cooter and Jade. Cooter services domestic Hell Patrol vehicles, that is, cars made in America, or at least by American manufacturers. So Cooter services Dodge's, Chrysler's, General Motors, Ford, whereas Jade services the imports, specifically the Japanese imports. So she's on stuff like Toyotas, Nissans, Hondas, etc. And then Rachel fucking kicks the shit out of the test drive, and just puts the fear of God into everybody, and then gets assigned the 1969 California Highway Patrol Dodge Polara Interceptor. We're going to hear more about that in the next chapter. The next chapter is going to be car porn. We are now in the car porn arc of the story. So, what's going to happen in Chapter 9? We're going to learn more about the car. We're going to learn more about how Hell Patrol mechanics rebuild cars for use in Hell Patrol. And Henry is going to explain a little bit of Hell Patrol history. And there's going to be some gun porn. So come back next time for Hell Patrol Chapter 9, featuring more of Jim Jack Cooter, the best goddamn son bitchin' mechanic from East Texas to West Texas.